Welcome to the Exam Room Podcast, brought to you by the Physicians Committee. Hi, I'm the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll. Thank you so very much for watching and downloading in more than 150 countries around the world and making the Exam Room one of the most consumed nutrition podcasts anywhere on the planet today. Here we are at the National Health Association Conference in Cleveland with a first-time guest. We always talk about nutrition, food, and sleep go hand in hand. We actually have with us kind of a sleep expert. She is from TrueNorth. She is a licensed acupuncturist, naturopathic doctor, just all around awesome human being with a phenomenal name. Dr. Csilla Veress, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I love the name. I was just telling you before we started recording, like, it is awesome. Csilla.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm feeling good about this.
Yeah, I used to, like I mentioned, hate it as a child, but now I love it because it's distinguishing. So
total conversation starter.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it breaks the ice.
Big time.
You're chilling with Csilla, and everybody's like, oh, well, then I'm relaxed.
I'm begging you to start a podcast and call it that. Chilling with Csilla. Like, are you kidding?
Actually, not a bad idea.
Instant #1.
That's it. I'm taking that.
Doc.
I'm taking that.
Let's go.
I'm taking it.
Let's go. All right. The science of sleep. Because this is a nutrition podcast, I want to start with this. Dr. Barnard and I were just talking recently about a study that showed that, people that ate more fruits and vegetables and, fewer inflammatory foods earlier in the day tended to sleep better at night. How strong is the connection between sleep and diet?
Yeah, it's pretty strong, actually. They looked at multiple studies and they found that increasing your plants in your diet actually help with decreasing sleep latency. So what that means is you're able to fall asleep easier, and then it boosts REM sleep, so rapid eye movement, which is a very important part of sleep, which not only allows us to dream and process emotions, but it's also where we consolidate memory from task-based kind of information that we get. And what we also realize is that plants have amazing amount of properties that aid in sleep. So we think about high magnesium foods. Many plants have that. We talk about plants that actually have melatonin in them. So some of the ones that I mentioned in the lecture is kiwis are my favorite. Tart cherry. I have patients drink tart cherry juice to help with boosting melatonin. Nice. Spinach, almonds, walnuts. I mean, it's basically you're having a sleep aid in what you're eating if you're eating whole food plant-based.
So Dr. Barnard and I, we did talk about magnesium and obviously melatonin. Are there some other micros and macros that really get in there and help aid in sleep quality? Yeah,
there are some that basically you have lots of vitamins and minerals, which when you think about cellular health, and you can't, most of the time we think about cellular health, we think about body, but we don't think about the brain and the neurons. And neurons need similar nutrient profiling. And so when we're taking in all these beautiful different types of plants, and hopefully we're getting a good variety of them, we have a good level of different types of proteins, right? We have a different level of like selenium, B vitamins, all of this creates cellular health. So like you were talking about in terms of these are things that help us with reducing inflammation. They help us with optimizing how even our brain works. When we do that, then we actually improve GABA. We improve, which is a calming neurotransmitter. We improve like acetylcholine. We improve serotonin. I mean, there's so many little pieces that all function in the overall benefit of sleep. So they're all these different factors. It's amazing.
Right on. Let's talk about inflammation and sleep. I think when a lot of people think about inflammation, they think about, oh, I'm in pain, right? It's that acute injury, or you're just inflamed because you're not eating the right kind of foods, whatever the case may be. How does that beyond the pain interrupt a person's quality sleep?
It can be multiple levels. So one is you can have inflammation where you're urinating more in the middle of the night. You can have inflammation where you have, unfortunately, like incontinence with bowels, right? You can have inflammation where you're not having proper digestion, so that could be impeded. You can have inflammation as well that not only has pain, but you might have like obstructive sleep apnea as well, right? So that's keeping you up because you're not actually getting adequate amount of oxygen and you're building carbon dioxide. So there is a lot of downstream impacts that inflammation can have on the system.
How does meal timing affect inflammation? I've heard a lot of studies recently say eat your bigger meals earlier in the day, lighter meals toward the end of the day. regardless of what's on the plate, is that still the best option for the majority of people?
Yes, and it makes sense if you think about it, right? I mean, you don't really need a large meal going into sleep. I mean, there's not as much activity when you're sleeping. You don't need to like mobilize as much glucose. And so it is a smart idea to actually get the smaller meal sizes towards the end of the day. They also talk about eating at least 3 hours before bedtime in order to optimize sleep. One of the other fascinating studies that I talked about at the lecture was that there is good literature showing that intermittent fasting is very powerful. So when we talk about meal timing, we talk about like doing those 12-hour fasts at least in order to really reset your circadian rhythm, which is this overall first line rhythmic patterning that falls in with sleep, right? So we just naturally, whether or not we have any outside cues, we're already going into this sleep and wake cycles. And then we have outside cues like food, like exercise, like light that actually can impact us. But one of the other big factors is literally when we're eating and whether or not we're fasting. So one of the things that we realize is that when people go into intermittent fasting cycles, they actually improve their sleep quality and their sleep duration in intermittent fasting cycles. And we also see that at TrueNorth. We see in prolonged fasting, you're not going to necessarily sleep during the fast, but you will find that people will sleep better after their fast. And it's all interconnected. When we look at the circadian pattern, it's very much connected to that food clock as well.
Why wouldn't they sleep as well during the fast that you were saying?
You know, theoretically, it's more evolutionary because if you think about when we used to do feast and famine, so when it was more necessary to actually go into famine, it was probably a time where we were looking for food. So it wasn't a time necessarily, quote unquote, for rest. It was more of like, we don't have food available, so we need to go and grab it. So it is more common that people just don't tend to sleep during a fast. And another factor that could be in play is that when you look at the health impacts that sleep has, they're very much in line with the health impacts that fasting has. So potentially, as your body's going through the fast, you're getting this massive improvement in your health that, you know, sleep was able to do, so the body kind of maybe balances differently.
How many patients come through the doors of TrueNorth who are really struggling with quality sleep? Do you see people like specifically for insomnia, or is that just one of the many like cascade list of symptoms?
It's a great question. It's very rare that we see people just for chronic insomnia. Usually it's a part of a chronic illness package. I would be amiss to like say exactly what percentage, but I would say that it's a very high percentage that has chronic insomnia as part of their overall kind of presentation. So
I want to go back to not sleeping as well during the fast, but at TrueNorth, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but you do prolonged fasting, as you said, so like a 7-day water fast, maybe even longer with certain patients. There's got to be some sleep in that week. So when you're saying like not quality sleep, like are people sleeping at all the first couple of days? Are they finding it hard to sleep as their body's kind of resetting and going through this detox kind of period?
Yeah, so people do sleep. So it and if they aren't sleeping, if they're getting maybe like anywhere from 1 to 3 hours of sleep, we actually do pull people from fast because most of the time people are not really doing as well with that lower level of sleep duration. What we talk about though is that somebody could walk in with really great sleep. So they're walking in, they get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. It definitely drops down even in those individuals where now they're getting 6 hours of sleep, they're getting 5 hours of sleep. It's maybe more disrupted during the night. In individuals that have insomnia, let's say they're walking in with 5 hours of sleep, they're just gonna notice that insomnia is not improving while there's fasting, and it might drop down even to like 4 hours of sleep. So we check patients twice a day, and so we really try to assess where they are in their trajectory of health. And if they're saying they sleep 4 to 5 hours, many people will say, I feel great though because I am fasting. Those are not the individuals that we necessarily will pull from a fast just because of the sleep concern, whereas somebody's like, I'm really not doing well because I haven't been getting sleep and I feel like my energy is low and there's other factors. Those are the individuals that we're probably going to be pulling from fasting.
What happens when the person is pulled from the fast? How long are they pulled? Do you try to like gradually ramp them back up toward the fast? What's that process like?
Great question. So it depends on the person itself, and it depends on how long they want to fast for, and also what they're coming in with. So what I give is like, let's say somebody's coming in and they have follicular lymphoma, which we have a really great case study, which we have seen really major impacts with it. The kind of the piece about that though is that we do see more of an impact as a person goes longer in their fast. So that might be a person where if they had to be pulled, what we usually give is around 2 to 3 days for someone to stabilize on juice. And so, we're not really sure why. We've actually tried different time periods, like maybe like one juice or a day of juice. It does seem like once they stay on juices for 2 to 3 days, it basically allows the body to almost get back into a somewhat homeostatic balance. And then they're able to go back to the fast and a lot of times do great for the rest of the fast. So that's what they needed at that moment. If that person needs to go back to the fast, they can go back to the fast. Let's say somebody was only going to do a short cleanse because they just wanted to like reset the system. They were really coming in for preventive or something where maybe it wasn't as severe. We might not even bring them back into the fast unless they're like, I really want to try to go back, because in some cases, just staying on juice might be more appropriate for them to finish off. So
talk to me about the juices. What kind of juices are we serving? What's in there?
Yeah, so we have an array of different juices, but mostly it's vegetables. So it's almost all vegetable. There are some people that need a little bit more of a caloric load, so we will put like apple. Sometimes we'll use watermelon as well, carrot as well. But overall, they're a different mix depending upon what the person needs for their healing.
All right, gotcha. So like, I think, if somebody's not familiar with that, they think vegetable juice, maybe the average person, I think, in this country would immediately gravitate toward V8. So how are yours different? Because I want this to be a conversation that we can bring to as wide of an audience as possible.
Yeah. So how we make our vegetable juices, and it does also depend upon the juicer you're using. So there are some juicers that, like cold pressed juicers, that do wonderful with like kale, Swiss chards, things of that nature, leafy green vegetables. We don't have that type of juicer. The one that we have basically needs to have more hardier types of vegetables. So our juices include squash, like zucchini. It will use carrots, like I mentioned. It will use celery. It will use cucumber. So some of the vegetables that have a little bit more of that hardier component to them. So that's what we'll use. That's why also we'll use like pears, we'll use apples, we'll use watermelon, things that we can extract.
Why not use like a Vitamix and do more smoothie versus a juice? Talk to us there.
It depends on what we're trying to accomplish. So there's nothing wrong with smoothies, and smoothies are great, and they can serve a really vital function. The difference is this, is that it depends on what you want and what your outcome is. When we're doing a water fast, if we want to stay in the most restful state for the body, we're going to use juices, because what we're doing is we're taking the fiber out and we're giving basically a glass of multivitamins, right? It's like all these gorgeous electrolytes in a glass. And so it really helps the digestion still rest, and we're giving just multiple vitamins and minerals. And so there is a piece about that where obviously there's a little bit of glucose too, but the body is not as activated. With smoothies, they're awesome. Same idea. You get all this beautiful vitamins and minerals, but you have the fiber in there. So it's great for some people, because if I'm trying to push bowel movements, or if that's a main kind of issue and that's what I want to do, I'm going to probably do smoothies, because then we're pushing it through. Another thing that we do with smoothies is, let's say somebody needs to gain weight. Smoothies, as we know, you can put so much stuff in a
Oh, yeah.
smoothie, and you can put nuts in there. You can put maybe almond milk or oat milk or something very, plant-based that actually raises up the caloric load. So it's a great tool for those individuals that are like, I need to gain weight. So it's a nice little aid of getting multivitamins and minerals, and also that little bit of caloric intake. So
Right on. I
yeah.
got you. All right, that makes a whole lot of sense. I'm a smoothie guy
Yeah.
myself. There's a lot of people who I think, unless it's a cleanse, try to steer away from juice because they're fiber all the time. And fiber obviously is critically important. But let me ask you this. I mean, for the person who is not necessarily going through a fast, how important is fiber in terms of sleep quality to tie it back to what it is we started talking about?
Oh, it's massively important. So if we look at, one of my favorite topics is the microbiome. So I lecture about the microbiome because it is kind of my specialty in and of the specialty of water fasting. And so if we just look at that, let's just look at this piece of fiber and the impact that it has on the microbiome. We see that if we have higher levels of fiber, we see benefits to the microbiome across the board. Increase in diversity, promotion of really good bacteria like all our probiotics. We see reduction of inflammation, increase of short chain fatty acids. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Protection of our intestinal lining. I mean, we can keep going. But when that microbiome is happy, what we also see is we're producing adequate amounts of serotonin. 90% of serotonin is in our gut. Serotonin is the building block for melatonin, right? The other piece of it is that serotonin is a major regulator for sleep and wake. We see boosting of GABA because Lactobacillus bifidum bacterium, Ankermansia, can actually produce some of our GABA, which is a calming neurotransmitter. So that helps with sleep. And if we're reducing inflammation, where we started off this entire conversation, if you're reducing inflammation, you're pushing towards better sleep anyway. So fiber is kind of, I would say that it's in the center of the power amongst, plants.
You do have a passion for the microbiome.
I
You
do.
lit up. You were like, oh, fiber. I'm going to connect you with Will Bulsiewicz. Like, y'all would just have
I would
that's
love
my
to
boy.
talk to him.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to him.
Oh, I can make that happen. That's not a problem.
No, I would love to
Yeah.
talk to him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love the work that he's doing. And I think it's even more powerful because it's coming from, gastroenterology in the MD field where people are like getting sick and tired of seeing people sick and tired and not being able to help them. And so just like Dr. Robbins spoke to last night, which is so powerful to have these leaders in the field talking about, we need to pay attention to this. Like,
Yeah.
let's wake up to the fact of how important food is in terms of our overall health, but especially our gut health, so.
All right, let's give some people some practical tips here.
Yeah.
If they are hearing this for the first time and this is a brand new message for them, rattle off a couple of foods that they might want to gravitate toward, put in their shopping cart the next time they're at their store.
So anything really great, like high minerals and magnesium. So like I said, like spinach, Swiss chard is a really good one. Really variety of lettuces could be a really good one because you want to make sure you're gravitating towards different colors. So
Yeah.
like radicchios and things of that
that's so
nature.
good.
Yeah.
Love it.
I know I do too. The bitterness of there. So that's one group that would be really good. Like I said, using nuts as a really beautiful kind of component as well. Like walnuts are going to be your best source for that. Tart cherries, like kiwis, can be really powerful. Bananas with high potassium. I mean, to be honest with you, if you just put a lot of vegetables, you're going to do just fine.
Right on.
So the study actually showed high level of carbohydrates, specifically vegetables in your diet, will impact all of that. And then the other piece, in case people are eating it, is whole grains. So whole grains has a laundry list of other minerals like selenium, zinc, iodine that actually help as well.
Carbohydrates still are vilified by a wide swath of people in the nutrition community, and that spills out into the general public, and that's why we have so many people on the low-carb diet. In terms of somebody eating a carnivorous diet, the keto diet, something like that, what do we know in terms of their typical sleep quality? Has that been measured?
They found higher fat loading, especially at nighttime. So if they have, like, let's say their piece of steak or super heavy fat, like with cheese and butters, what you actually see is a impact on their slow wave or their deep sleep. So when we look at the sleep architecture, we actually have quite a bit of longer stages of deep sleep early on, and then we decrease throughout the night. They saw that there was a reduction across the board throughout the, whatever it is, 8-9 hours
Yeah.
that they're sleeping. And so they actually have a huge impact with memory, learning, like cognition. So it can really impact it.
That doesn't sound like much fun. No.
Well, and on top of it, like the inflammation, you know, you have cardiovascular risk that comes with that, obesity risk, then you have higher risks of obstructive sleep apnea. I mean, it's kind of a laundry list of things that can
Yeah.
happen.
Oh boy, yeah. I want to ask you about acupuncture too, because I know that you're into that. But what would your advice be first? What would your advice be to somebody who struggles with eating late at night? And you were just talking about eating those heavy meals late at night. There's a lot of people who do. They struggle with whether it's that midnight snack and maybe a scoop or two more ice cream than they probably should be having, or maybe they just get the munchies like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and that's when they finally feel ready for bed. How do you break people of that habit?
So it's a multi-comprehensive kind of approach that I look at with patients. And so I think there's a lot of things that are going on in that kind of a picture from my experience. So I've been at TrueNorth for over 11 years. And when I start to assess this with patients, because it is quite common, there's multi-factors. So one is, I know it's a double-edged sword, but a lot of times sleep deprivation can actually cause those late night munchies. So really focusing on sleep priority. One of the things I say to individuals is, how can we get you to sleep a little bit earlier? So maybe that would be one kind of tool that they can use. The other thing is stress has a huge impact on it. So stress can definitely cause us to use food as a tool to self-soothe, even if we don't realize it. And we don't even have to have overwhelm. It can just be like a lot of stuff going on in our lives. So really looking at the stress piece. The other piece that I always work with individuals on, because usually it's tied into it, is there's some sort of trauma component a lot of times that people haven't really focused in on. And the reason I bring that up is because it will determine what a person or how they're going to have a relationship with food and whether or not they're able to stop and have an awareness. Because what I always tell patients is that I know it seems automatic. So you have a craving, you reach for the cookie and you put it in your mouth and you feel like you have absolutely no time in between there. That's actually not true. With the thought of the craving, there is a moment of time that we can stop, and it is around awareness. So we can say, is that really what I want? And it takes time, but it also takes, why are we reaching for that? Are we actually trying to self-soothe stress? Are we sleep deprived? Are we not eating appropriate amount of nutrients in the other 3 meals, which can do it? Are we maybe potentially, like, quote unquote, having too little calories, so by the end of the day we're starving because we've just done a full day, right? So it's about also how we're plating, but then it's also about, are we actually kind of thinking about we're not good enough, we're unwanted because of these different trauma events that actually then create this spiraling downwards. So it's multi levels that we can look at with that.
That is complicated and complex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it usually is.
Yes. It's not as simple as closing your eyes and going to sleep. Like, there's a lot that goes into it.
It's not. It's not. And actually, one of the most profound, which you might have heard, is one of the most profound, and this is why I do this work, is when they looked at Vietnam vets when they came back from Vietnam, from the Vietnam War. Many of them, when they were there to deal with the trauma and the horror that was there, they actually used heroin. And so when they came back, though, what they thought was going to happen is heroin is such an addictive substance, everybody was just going to keep using. That's not what happened. So when they actually came back, they found that there was absolutely some people that kept using it, but there was many people, once they were in their beautiful home environment, they were back into their happy, quote unquote lives, they were able to let it go because it was a fix in a time of need. So what that tells us is, while there is absolutely more addictive substances out there, there's more to the picture than just putting it into one category and just saying, this is just addictive, we just need to stay away from it, which I'm I don't want anybody using heroin or processed foods or sugars or things of that nature, but it's really begs the question of how we have to understand, okay, that's addictive, but what else is underneath that is creating this cycling that people can't get out of?
Yeah.
So,
It's not lost on me that you just use processed food and sugar and put that in the same bucket as you did heroin. I'm a huge believer in food being as addictive.
Oh, for sure.
That was a big part of my story when I was 420 pounds, like 10,000 calories a day. It was just insane. Could not stop myself for the longest time. In your opinion, why are those foods as addictive as a substance as strong as heroin?
Well, first of all, these companies that are making these foods have entire departments that their job is to make that food be irresistible as much as it can. They're putting chemicals. I mean, what is heroin? It's kind of a chemical substance that changes the brain's chemistry, alters it on the spot. And so what those companies do is they literally say, oh, this is addictive, but this is even more addictive. Okay, we're going to put this chemical in there. And so they really are trying to get you to not have just one, but eat the whole bag and then buy 5 other bags. So the whole premise of what you're eating is fake food that is full of chemicals that have been designed to actually wire your brain to want more of it. So in and of itself, right, it's actually causing, and like I talked about too, is that sugar is this, is something that gives us energy. So we have glucose, whether it's in whole grains, whether it's vegetables, whether it's in fruit, it's in different kind of concentrations depending upon where we are. So the idea of us craving sugar is not new. We will always kind of want sugar, but the craving of how much and to the quantity depends upon what other factors, like I mentioned before, are we stressed out? And we need that as like one of our soothing mechanisms, right? Are we stress deprived? And so we need it because our hormones and our appetites are not really balanced. And so our leptin is actually depressed and our ghrelin is up. So we're hungry all the time and we can't feel satiated. So we're constantly eating more and more sugar. So there's different factors that really play into it, but it's no surprise that sugar is something that we're attracted to. And especially if you put it into a higher concentration, our body's like, whoa, you just put it up my veins and I'm good. Like, I mean, it's like a power hit to us.
I mean, just instant rush. And,
Huge.
I just remember like going 3 days without fast food and totally losing it and like literally out of my mind, like angry, detox, withdrawal, like the whole gamut. And then like having that first bite again, it was just like instant calm. It was like tranquility, like that. It was like unbelievable how my brain reacted to it. Unbelievably powerful, unbelievably powerful. And it's funny, like you talk about the way that the foods are engineered. I talk about this on the show and it's been in a lot of documentaries, and it's not hard to find the fact that big tobacco companies invested in big food and implemented the same playbook when tobacco was being vilified in the late 80s and the 90s and like into the early 2000s. They kind of shifted, where their dollars were going. It's the exact same playbook.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in the business to make money.
That's what it comes
that's
down
the thing. They're in the business, and unfortunately, I'm sure with your viewers, this is not news, but if you think about it, if you keep people sick, right, then you're sending them to the pharmaceutical companies. So the pharmaceutical companies have a huge play to invest back into these awful foods that create people in this stuck kind of modality, right? Like they're just stuck patterns of life. And when you have more inflammation, you don't want to move your body, and then your brain becomes duller, right? Because you're just not processing. You're more inflamed, and so then you're just going and you're eating more and more food. So it's just this pattern of sickness, which is why we're in like the sick care model, unfortunately.
And I swear I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I roll my eyes at a lot of this stuff, but when you look at the people who sit on the board of the pharmaceutical companies, and the fast food companies and, you know, the other like major food manufacturers out there, you're going to see a lot of the same faces. A lot of the same faces.
47% of funding for the FDA comes from pharmaceutical. That should never happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, talk about bias.
Yeah.
I mean, that should not happen.
That's topic for another show.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, but look, believe me, you and me, simpatico. I'm right there with you. And again, not a conspiracy theorist.
You don't have to be.
It's right there in their public records. My goodness. All right, let's talk about acupuncture. I discovered it recently over the last couple of years in my health journey and absolutely love it. Found it to be extremely calming. Why did you gravitate toward acupuncture?
So I was in my mid-board, so we have to take kind of after year 2 of medical school, you have to take one set of boards, and I was stressed out.
Right
beyond. And so I wasn't sleeping. I was really not doing well. And so one of my colleagues just said to me, you know, go get acupuncture, go get craniosacral. And I said, great idea. I never had it prior to this. I was just like, I need something. So I did it. And the profound, not only calming that it helped with, I was sleeping better. My digestion was better. It rocked my world so much that the minute I got out of it, I was like, I have got to learn how to do this for my patients. Like this is necessary, because everything I do, I think creates this amazing ripple effect of health. And I always say this is my mission statement, is that heal people. And so if we can empower somebody towards health, we change the world, like in this ripple effect. And what I know is true is that I'm helping people with the education that we do and what you do, right? Like you're educating about all of this, but it takes time sometimes.
Yeah.
Acupuncture, it's immediate. People walk off the table, they're in less pain, they're sleeping better. I mean, I've had people TMJs improve. It's like a joint pain that happens in the jaw. I've had people like not have as much anxiety. I'm trying to think of the tinnitus, which is ringing in the ear, starts to diminish. I mean, literally immediately off the table. So that to me, and also I think it pays attention to, we are these soulful beings, you know, and we have energy ripping through our system when you think about it. Because they have done studies where they said, let's do sham acupuncture and compare it to people that actually know the different meridians and do needles. And the sham is basically just saying, we're going to put it in this muscle and see if we can stop it twitching and stop the pain, right? And what they found was that there's a placebo effect that happens with anything, and there was some benefit. There was massive more benefit though when people understood the meridians and using it. And they have a machine that actually you can go through the different channel points, and it will light up right over a specific point within the acupuncture system. Meaning, so what you're looking for is electrical activity basically, and you can go through different parts of the skin and it will not light up unless you're over an acupuncture point, which is unbelievable. Yeah.
That's wild.
I know.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lit up like that, like you did the microbiome. Like, acupuncture, let's go.
Well, I just believe in it.
Yeah.
I really have seen it work in the immediate as I'm trying to get people healthier. The big thing.
So for somebody who is not familiar with it, like, let's talk about what's actually happening. Is it just like a total calming of the nervous system? Like what's going on? Because it seems like I was a skeptic at first, but it's like, you're going to put a needle in me and I'm going to feel better. You're going to needle me, needles hurt, but I'm going to feel better. What? But my mind was blown. So I'm a total believer now. Right. But there's some skeptics out there. Let's talk to the skeptics.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is, remember, thousands of years old. So this is traditional Chinese medicine. This is thousands. And if you can imagine, what they did was that it was all trial based. So they were like, if I do this, does anything happen? No. If I do this, does anything happen? No. Well, that worked. Okay. Well, and then you write it down, right? So over thousands of years, what they started to understand is that when you peel away the front layer of a body, what you'll see is energy systems that basically govern every single organ in our body. This is what I say to skeptics. I'll say, how does your heart know what to do? And people will say, well, it's the brain and the pacemaker. I'm like, okay, well then how does the brain know what to do? And they'll say the heart. And I'm like, okay, well again, how does the heart know what to do? And we can go around and people will start to say, well, it's your hormone. I'm like, well, what governs the hormones? And so what we understand is that there's something greater, right? Like even when you think about the circadian rhythm patterns, like there's something greater, and that is this gorgeous chi that they call it in acupuncture, which is our energy, right? It's a very distinct way that our body functions as a whole that leaves once we're passed away or when we're dead. This energy flows through, in Chinese medicine, these meridians. The meridians are able to be accessed through these points. Like I said, there is a machine now that we have where you, as maybe somebody who doesn't even know where the points are, can actually find the points just because of where you have this greater level of electrical kind of energy that shows up on this machine, and it's accurate. And so you can tap into these different, it's almost like access points that when you tap in, depending upon where you are, because that's the other thing that they learned is that depending upon which point that you're accessing will go to different systems. So obviously, if I'm trying to activate the stomach, I'm not going to use, let's say, the heart system, you know? So it's really about understanding where you're going. But once you activate it, you can actually help with heart rate, bring it down. You can help with vasodilation. You can actually help settle diarrhea. You can actually help push constipation. Like, I mean, it's really fascinating because what you're doing is you're allowing that energy to just be in better flow in the body.
That's wild.
Yeah. It is wild.
It's so much fun. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it. Like, just if you're skeptical, try it.
Yeah.
Just try it. I'm telling you, just try it. Like,
like
it's pretty wild. Do you do that at TrueNorth at all? Or? Okay, wow.
I do.
All right. So if somebody wants to work with you and go to TrueNorth, how do they do that?
There's two ways that you can work with, well, actually there's three ways you can work with me. One is we have a coaching system. So and it's only for nutrition and lifestyle coaching, but that can be done on the TrueNorth website. And I'm so happy to help patients through lots of different things and just kind of educating them on what the power is of whole food plant-based, potentially like intermittent fasting, you know, what they can change in their lifestyle. The other way is that I am a supervising doctor at TrueNorth. So people, when they come in, if they want to fast, they can come and see me and I can supervise their journey. The other way that what I see patients is even if they're working with another doctor, because I do a little bit outside the box with like microbiome support, and I also look at toxicants because right now, unfortunately, one of the other big concerns is like we live in a world that's becoming more and more toxic because we're pushing it out. So we can't ignore it. It's really not possible to ignore it because there are some people that are exposed a little bit more than others, and that is part of their health journey. So I'm doing some work with that as well. And then I do acupuncture and craniosacral. So if individuals want to work with me just in that realm, they can do that at TrueNorth as well.
You got what the person needs.
I do.
You're like a one-stop shop, man. That's
to.
It's because you got a lot of passions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, it's also because fasting is powerful, but people do walk away from even long-term fasts and they still need support in one area of their chronic illness or another. And it was my mission is like, well, why aren't you better? Like, what else do we have to do? Like, how do I become a detective in this case? And so that's where I started to go off and do a little bit more other work.
Part two. I bet you got stories of patient success for days.
So many.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah. I would love to have you back just to talk about some of the incredible transformations you've seen.
I would be able to fill up probably like 20, 25 pages. Honestly, because the reason I stay at TrueNorth, not only because it's a great organization, but it's because I see miracles every day.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you're a miracle, right? Like, I mean, the fact of even what you've accomplished, that's so powerful, right? And you are living proof of what I am doing with my career, is the fact that now you are educating and you're reaching so many more people towards health. If we keep doing this, we are going to change the world. I really do believe it. And that's what I see. I see one person like shifting their whole entire health, like, matrix of what they believe they can do, and then they feel better. And when you feel better, you do better. And when you do better, you want to help somebody else, right? Like, it's this, it's just cool when you see it, you know?
Don't change. I like you. You got this sparkle in your eye. You got this glow. You got this enormous, beautiful smile. You're like so happy doing the work that you're doing, and
really
it shows.
happy.
Yeah,
I'm really happy.
that's awesome. And I'm happy you were here today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.